Hi, this is Ann Downey, and this is my final project for MTI 563. In the interest of using tech, I thought it would be a good idea to start with a warm-up, shall we? I happen to have this handy poll ready and about the value of differentiation, and I thought we'd take it. How many tools has Ann tried in class since MTI 563 started? Millions? Billions? A whole lot? Or none? Well, it's not yet in the millions. So right now it's a whole lot. Which of the following is a tool used by Ann? Storyboard That, Bubble.us, Edpuzzle, Socrative Easily, SpiderScribe, Twitter, all of the above and more. It's all of the above and more just since class started. Is Ann pleasantly surprised by the ease with which she has learned to differentiate? Yes sirree, you betcha, roger that. Definitely, all of the above. So now that I have warmed up your brain, we can get to the meat of the matter. I took the North Carolina State University test and found that I am well balanced in 3 areas and completely out of whack in another. I tend to be slightly reflective and slightly global, mildly visual, but wildly intuitive. I found out that I am absolutely not an engineer. That took a little too long, but you get the idea. In an effort to use one of my new tools, I decided to make a map of the things I do with my free time in order to see visually what the test tells me in writing. And so we will go to bubble.us. So here I am in a nutshell. I used the bubble.us, which I also had my students use for one of their projects, just as a brainstorming project for a more formal paper. And forgive me if this sounds or seems self-indulgent, but it is an alternative way of understanding who I am. So I began by mapping out all of my leisure activities. Those are in the green boxes around here, and I started just with those. And I included the 3 things I do for work: teaching English and Spanish, and doing landscape design. So everything, once I looked at it, kind of fell into 4 categories. Love of nature, love of activity, love of art, and love of language. So each one of those is kind of who I am in a nutshell. And what I learned, I learned that this is a pretty cool tool. If I could get it to do what I'd like it to do right now. There we go. It's a pretty cool tool. I found that in looking at this visual representation of myself, I better understand the rather solitary assessment of me indicated by the results of the test. I can also see clearly the desire to and the capacity for exploration. For instance, I didn't read anything before I bought and assembled my first beehive. So where are the bees on here? Here we go. So I'll raise that up. So part of my love of nature. I did watch a YouTube video on how to install packaged bees when I got them, but that was about it. I dove in, and many years and many stings later, I was able to sweeten up the holidays by selling my honey around Christmas time. Cool. Look at the beautiful brood pattern. I see a lot of different learning styles among my students. For instance, I discovered years ago that it is difficult for some kids to understand the Odyssey when they plow through the reading. So I spent a summer reading the epic into my computer using Audacity. On my Moodle page, I call it the Odyssey Out Loud. Maybe you'd like to hear some.
The Odyssey of Homer, Book 1. Muse, tell me of the man of many wiles, the man who wandered many paths of exile after he sacked Troy's sacred citadel. He saw the cities, mapped the minds of many, and on the sea his spirit suffered every adversity to keep his life intact, to bring his comrades back. In that last task his will was firm and fast, and yet he failed. He could not save his comrades. Fools, they foiled themselves. They ate the oxen of the sun, the herd of Helios Hyperion. The Lord of Light requited their transgression. He took away the day of their return.
So that is just the proem of the Odyssey. That's just the first paragraph, essentially, in what is a 24-book text. Needless to say, it is very challenging for a lot of my students who have trouble with just reading the written word and gathering meaning from it. So I found that this Audacity tool is pretty cool because I was able to add some pictures, and then periodically along the way, if they look at the timeline, there are little stops in there where it's like a check on their knowledge. I'll just stop and ask them questions, and they turn off the recording, and it focuses their learning a little bit more. So I found that this tool saved a lot of kids, especially the ones who learned really well by listening. So I thought, why not do more? Recently, I assigned a video for my Spanish students. They had to teach a grammatical concept in less than 3 minutes. There were virtually no parameters aside from the timing, the Spanish, and the tech. Here are 2 examples of what I got. So from a student who has significant executive functioning issues and can't make heads or tails out of notes, I got this.
Hello, class. Today we are going to be learning how to tell time in Spanish.
Turns out this young man loves creating videos and has even done a claymation music video for his dad, who is a professional musician. From a kid who looks bored every day in class, I got this.
Hola Moochies! Today Sam and I are going to be talking about stem-changing verbs that go from O to UE. What is a stem-changing verb, you may ask? The main form of this verb is called the infinitive. Some Spanish verbs are called the stem changers because when they're conjugated, the stem changes in a predictable way.
Now, to be fair, I also got this.
Dead form, the nosotros form, the nos, the vosotros form.
I don't think you need to see any more of that. This chap taped himself writing in his notebook and never bothered to notice that it was upside down for his viewer. I got a chuckle out of that. Clearly he has a learning style not yet tapped. I guess you can see that I found the differentiation strategies useful. I have a million ideas floating around in my head and no time to implement all of them. I have definitely relearned that I need to get kids up, tap into their creativity, show them where home plate is, and let them get there in whatever way makes sense for them. I also think it's incredibly valuable to have students try things that are not comfortable for them, to get them to experience the cognitive dissonance that many of their peers feel every day in an ordinary classroom. That dissonance will push them and challenge them to try new things. Speaking of trying new things, I tried comics. I have never been a fan of comic books, but I know they appeal to my students, so I gave it a shot. In my unit about travel in my Spanish class, I had some rather lackluster presentations during round 1. Nearly every kid in every group got up in front of the class to express their love of playing basketball here in Milwaukee and when they traveled to Mexico. They were unprepared, and most of them used only the words with which they are familiar and comfortable, basketball being key among them. For round 2, I challenged them to prepare a skit and memorize it. The results were better, but not terribly clever or inventive. For round 3, I assigned them to create a 3 or 4 cell comic and storyboard that, in which their characters move around, talk about the weather, and discuss what they want to do on vacation. Here's a couple of examples of what I got. Now, while I'm not exactly sure what Jesus and Santa are doing at a gas station and then on a bus with an alien and a baby, and by the Golden Gate Bridge, I guess this one makes a little bit more sense. They did manage to accomplish the goal, and they did try out some of their new vocabulary. Here's another. So, well, you'll notice that there's a character in almost every cell in a desperate desire for Taco Bell. That's kind of a little bit of a class joke with us. And I love it that they like to incorporate some of those little funny class things into their creativity. It shows that they're paying attention in class and that they like being in there. So here we have them on the, looks like the gates of Hades. Somehow they are now floating in outer space, always wanting Taco Bell. Here they seem to be in a Taco Bell, and then they are in some sort of destroyed city. And it's not high art, but it was fun for them. They got to use the language. They got to practice it in a way that was fun for them, and I find that incredibly valuable. So hopefully they learn a little bit of the language while they're in the process of kind of having fun with each other and having fun in class. So again, I have found this class to be incredibly valuable. It has pushed me to try new things, and I'm discovering that I don't have, I'm not as unintuitive about technology as I thought I was. It's kind of funny that I came out so high on the intuitive on that scale, and yet I've always thought of myself as a bit of a techno idiot. So this has been a good thing for me to push myself, experience a little cognitive dissonance myself, and to try new tools. It's been incredibly valuable. Thank you very much, Jackie. And again, my name is Ann Downey, and both my Gmail and my Twitter are the same, downeyak@gmail.com. And I think it's only appropriate that we end this class or this presentation with an exit ticket. So here we are at Google a Day. I'm on question 3, haven't been able to answer any of them. What was Robert Brown looking at through a microscope when he found evidence of the 1827 scientific concept named in his honor? I'm going to call that a brown bear. And not even going to check the answer. Bye-bye.